Acornology. Once upon a time, in a land not so far away, there was a kingdom of acorns, nestled at the foot of a grand old oak tree. Since the citizens of this kingdom were modern, fully westernized acorns, they went about their life with a purposeful energy, and since they were midlife baby boomer acorns, they engaged in a lot of self-help courses. There were seminars called Getting All You Can Out of Your Shell, and Who Would You Be Without Your Nutty Story? There were woundedness and recovery groups for acorns who had been bruised in their fall from the tree. There were spas for oiling and polishing those shells, and various acornopathic therapies to enhance longevity and well-being. One day, in the midst of this kingdom, there suddenly appeared a naughty little stranger, naughty with a K, not like like a knot, a naughty little stranger, apparently dropped out of the blue by a passing bird. He was capless and dirty, making an immediate negative impression on his fellow acorns. And to make things worse, crouched beneath the mighty oak tree, he stammered out a wild tale. Pointing up at the tree, he said, "We are that!" Delusional thinking, obviously. The other acorns concluded, but they continued to engage him in conversation. So tell us, how do we become that tree? Well, he said, pointing downward, it has something to do with going into the ground and cracking open the shell. Insane, they responded. Totally morbid. Why then, we wouldn't be acorns anymore. So that was a fun little story, and other great things are in this new book that just came out by Unity called Courage to Imagine. And they're out there on the table because I grabbed a stack when I was in Kansas City. So today's Father's Day, and for some of us who had wonderful, delightful fathers, that's a great thing to celebrate. For those of us who maybe didn't have that experience, it can be a more rough day. And for those of us who, like myself, who my father's passed, sometimes it's a little sad because I can't call him up and say Happy Father's Day. And so there's a lot of, in a traditional Christian context, God is made Father. And so we can talk about those kind of things. And we sang this song, but we didn't talk about God Father. It's an interesting thing. But in Unity, we don't talk about God as Father in that parent-child relationship. We talk about God as the energy of everything, all the universe that is. And we are a part of that. And so, not in a masculine or a feminine way, as hinted to in the daily word, but that we are part of essence of all of that is. Maybe we're like the acorn, haven't quite fully come into all of our being yet. Right? And so, we might look around at the world around us and say, man, we're kind of caught up in what was it called? The story about how do we deal with our, we need to keep our outsides looking perfect like the little acorns and the things. What we really need to do is dive down deeper and be broken open to be able to fully express our potential, right? And so I was thinking, I was in Kansas City this last week, which is where Unity headquarters is, and I was at the national conference. There was 400 about of us there, mostly ministers, but some licensed teachers and other leaders, church leaders, and the theme was just imagine. We were talking about what our future, what our life is going to look like. And so I was thinking, so, I was in Kansas City this last week, which is where Unity headquarters is, and I was at the national conference. There was mostly ministers, but some licensed teachers and other leaders, church leaders, and the theme was just imagine. We were talking about what our future the future of our world could be, the future of unity could be. And these are exciting things to talk about. You know, there's a lot of things that are changing and happening in our world. And so it came up a few times. So Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, the co-founders of Unity, were very innovative for their time. And it's very interesting because what they contributed to Unity and the founding of Unity kind of fits along with traditional gender roles, which kind of works for today in today's talk. But Myrtle was the prayer center of Unity, right? She was very much the heart. She didn't write a lot of books because she was too busy praying with people and running Silent Unity and spending that time and energy with that. Charles was very interested in the thinking part and the analytical part. And while people are getting better because they're praying in this way, I need to find out why. And so he would run his own little prayer experiments to figure out how these healings were happening. And they would, and he was a business person, so they bought land. Unity Village property will be bought by Unity 100 years next year. It's pretty exciting. And so one of the great things about Charles Fillmore is he was always innovating. He was one of the first. He had phone lines put in for Silent Unity long before most people had phones in their houses. And people thought he was crazy. Why did you put all these phone lines in? Who's going to call you? But he knew that was where it was at, right? And I don't have the numbers because I didn't think to look them up. But Silent Unity answers millions of calls a year. People still call, even though now they email in things and they still write in. But he was always on the cutting edge. He would go and turn up the radio frequency on the radio show in the middle of the night. Kind of breaking the rules. But and because of the way that the radio waves bounce within the atmosphere, I don't quite know all the science behind it, that he came in giving his messages at the middle of the night very strongly in Nigeria. There are 52-ish Unity ministries in Nigeria.
Wow.
Right? After California and Florida, they're the third largest, state. So, because he was always pushing the edge of what was new and how to reach out and be more connected and do the next thing. And so that's exciting to me because it's been part of what I've been in to remind ourselves that where we've come from is important to know. But that's not the end of where we're going. Right? And so as individuals, what is our thing? Are we polishing our acorn shell? Or do we realize we are that? We are the tree. Realize where we've come from and who we've come here to be. I've come here to be something much bigger than just this or just that. And I don't know what I could be, but I certainly know that putting myself in the box of wife or sister or minister or whatever isn't enough. It's part of, an aspect of, but not all of the pieces. Don't worry, honey. And so what's exciting about, or what we can think about on days like Father's Day, beyond where our genetics came from, because that's one very simple way to see Father's Day, but to see us as part of a line or a circle or a trajectory that we have come through. I think about my grandfather who just passed away this last month, and how the world was different when he was born 90-something years ago. It was a completely different world that he lived in 90-something, that he was born into. And now, I have sitting there in the front row my cell phone, which is a few years old and is making me annoyed because it's behind the times. It's still got more technology than those rockets we sent out into space with people on them. That's pretty amazing, right? We've come so far in our technology, and so what I believe, what I felt happening at this conference that I was at, we talked about the things that are happening in our world and how we can stand up and do more, and how we can, many of us were talking about further steps into advocacy, and we talked about technology, and we talked about all of those things. But what comes from all of that, from a spiritual perspective, how do we get from here as acorns to becoming the tree is consciousness, right? So we can grow our technology, and we can grow our outreach, and we can do all those things, and those things are helpful and useful too, but our consciousness is what it always comes down to. That's how we get, first we have to realize that we're that, right? Then the hard work comes, the actual becoming that. That's the. And so, how do we move from here to becoming all that we can be? Well, we never arrive, right? That's what's great about the spiritual journey, and what's frustrating about the spiritual journey. It's not like you arrive and are complete, and then you just kind of go along at that level for the rest of all time. That's not how it works. It's a continual journey of unfolding and discovering and growing, right? A tree doesn't stop growing. Even when it reaches the limits of what its particular DNA will let it grow, it still grows. It still grows new leaves, it still grows new trees, right? And so we continue to grow. And so, how do we do that? Of course, we have tools like prayer and meditation, which are part of our spiritual paths. We have community, which help us nudge us along the path, and maybe when we're having a rough time. That's one of the things I love about the best part of conference. Sure, we talk about things, and we get guest speakers, and we roast our butts off in the Kansasness of it all. But the best part of all of it is the conversations you have at lunchtime with your colleagues and your friends, because you find out what they're doing in their ministries and things like that. But that's also when you have a chance to share, this is where my struggle is. And they say, I hear you, I see you. They can't fix it, but just to be heard. And that's what spiritual community is really for and about. And so, that's why it's been exciting. We've been doing the craft thing and the hike things this summer, which has been really exciting. It's been fun because it's been a chance to just be together. I hear you, I see you, I'm here. So spiritual community, prayer, and meditation, those are all important ways. And for some people, you'll find that perfect book and that will do the thing. And for other people, books don't do the thing. It's okay. Maybe it's a blog you read, or a video you watch, or maybe, it's listening to me talk. For some people, it seems to work. I don't know. But the important part about all this is to remember that we have roots that go down, and we stay connected to remember who we are and where we've come from, but that the roots that we have don't limit how far we grow. And so that's the blessing of Father's Day, is to remember where we can go. Because I don't know about you, but the world that my father grew up in, the world that he was and who he was not the same when he passed away as when he came into the world. And so why would we ever think that we wouldn't also be a part of that same trajectory of moving ourselves forward and moving the world forward, moving forward in consciousness, as well as with all the other things, technology and social justice and all those other things that we have going on in our world. It is ours to continue to grow our world. And so I encourage you, whether you have a father to call this afternoon or not, or whether it's a healthy relationship or not, to remember that blessing, the affirmation from today's daily word. I bless all those who encouraged my self-discovery, growth, and learning. And so we can say, I bless. I remember. I am grateful for all of those who are part of that continuing learning and growth.